Worley. I'm CEO of Developmental Pathways. First of all, let me just say to you, I don't always sound like this. This evening I have laryngitis, so you're going to have to forgive me. But it's gradually going away and my voice is coming back. But we're going to just proceed with this kind of gravelly voice for this evening. The other two are not as infected as I am. So anyway, welcome to our second community conversation. By the way of introduction, for those of you who don't know me, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to Developmental Pathways. I come after 10 years of serving as county commissioner with Douglas County during the highest growth period with the county from 1999 to 2009, and then just came on working with Developmental Pathways. Before that, I was honored to serve on the board of directors with Developmental Pathways and had a really great time of service with them. Developmental Pathways is a community center board set in state statute as of 1964 and is one of 20 across the state. We serve an area. Our catchment area is from Douglas County and Arapahoe counties and the whole city of Aurora, including the portion that goes into Adams County. As you can imagine, that's quite an extensive area of service. And it's about, as far as just people in that area, that's about 1.8 million individuals. Each year we host, as part of our obligation, but also as part of what we really find a very good way to reach out to individuals and families that we serve, a way to provide information to the community. We host a forum just to kind of acquaint individuals of what we're doing within the agency, of what we're doing within the community, and a way to answer any questions that you may have. We've heard from families that sometimes it's very difficult to get out and about, and so we've come to offer different ways of how we can reach out to our community, this being another way that we can reach out to you and to our families from a convenience way and to reach into your home. We're always trying to hear from as many families and individuals as possible. This gives individuals an additional option by phone or computer, no matter where you are. For those families who can't join us this evening, they will still be able to catch a recording of this event on our website, along with the answers to any questions that will not be answered this evening. They'll be out on our website as well. So before introducing my co-presenters to my right, let me take a minute to explain how to submit a question. So, oh, there was my voice there for a second. Did you get that in the audience? Anyway, on your screen right now, you can submit a question at any time by clicking the Q&A at the top left of your screen. If you'll notice right now, type a question in the box, and a staff member here in our office will respond to let you know it was received. We have several breaks throughout the hour to answer any questions. If we don't get to your question, we'll post a written answer to your question with a recording of tonight's presentation. You'll find a recording of tonight's presentation on our commitment to transparency page on our website. So I hope that was very clear of where you can submit a question, and it should be very easy for you to get to. If it's not, please just contact us. I'm sure we'll be able to get to you. Okay, now let me introduce all our presenters. To my right, and to the right of me on your screen right now, is Matt Van Knocken. Matt has over 20 years of executive leadership and management experience. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and management and a master's in business administration in healthcare management. Matt currently serves as the chairperson for the El Paso County Human Services Advisory Committee and is a governor-appointed member of the Colorado State Board of Health and a board member for the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. To Matt's right is Bob Ward. Bob joined Developmental Pathways in January 2005 and oversees the case management department. He is the father of a young man with autism in the Medicaid waiver program. Prior to coming to Pathways, Bob worked in both the private sector and government for over 20 years as an attorney and executive manager. He has experience in special education issues, healthcare, banking, and Medicaid. Bob is a graduate of the State University of New York and the University of Denver College of Law. So you can see we have quite a bit of experience sitting up here on the panel this evening. So you're going to hear from both of those gentlemen later in the evening. But to move on, we're going to give you a lot of information this evening. Let's move into our presentation. Let's talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. On your screen now, you're going to see a little bit about how many people we serve and how much it takes to do just that. Each year, we serve approximately 8,000 people. That's really, in the scheme of things, quite a few people in the state of Colorado. If you look to the right of that graph, that's about 25% of the 25,000 people in the state of Colorado. That means we're serving about one out of every 4 people. That's about a fourth of the state of Colorado. In Denver Metroplex, we serve about 7 of the 25 wealthiest zip codes in the state, but still we have about 4,000 people in abject poverty. So we go from the wealthiest to the poorest within our catchment area. And if you look at that other little bit of information, we're dealing with 81 different dialects within our catchment area. That's a lot of that is within our Aurora catchment portion, but that's quite a lot of different dialects in our area. If you go to our website and look at the upper right-hand corner, we have a translator within our on our website that you can change any of our websites into the language of your choice. And the lower left-hand portion of the screen in front of you, everything in DP that we're doing right now is done with about a budget of $36 million with about 200 staff members. We are funded with federal, state, county mill levy money, and a lot of community philanthropy. Well, let's move on to our next slide. This indicates all of the programs that we're dealing with right now in our DP area. You'll notice our key to the left. Blue indicates early intervention. Yellow, community outreach department. And our pink is our case management area. After someone is determined eligible for services, there are several programs and waivers available. I know when you're first coming in to the Developmental Pathways family, there's a lot of terminology that is really foreign to everyone. When you start talking about waivers, that's just another governmental way of saying funding source. So there are several waivers or funding sources available depending upon your age, specific circumstance, and your needs. Our 3 departments, early intervention, case management, and community outreach, each offer different services, but often collaborate to provide care over the span of an individual's life. We offer services here at Developmental Pathways from the very beginning of life to end of life. And we're very proud of all of the services that we offer here. To read so much more than what we're going to be telling you about this evening about the programs we offer, we really encourage you to go to our website and go to the Get Started section. That's Get Started section of our webpage, or navigate into the Helpful Tools page for infographics detailing the process. Infographics are just like a pictorial way. Everybody learns differently. And infographics kind of walk you through a different way of learning through pictures. It's a very helpful way for you to learn. So if we go back to that screen, let's go to our next screen. That's good. Thank you. These indicate, the screen will indicate how many people, and from the screen that we have up there, it's really not all girls that we take care of. This is just another great infographic way of indicating who we're taking care of and all of the different programs that we have available. The figures of how many people that we serve in each one of the programs. Let me call your attention to the EI, or Early Intervention Program, that is up there. It's kind of the light pink. That says 3,250. These figures are indicative of the fiscal year ending in 17 or 2017. We happen to have the honor of handling more babies than any other agency within the whole state of Colorado by probably 3 times more, maybe 4 times more than any other agency. In fact, I think we handle not just 1/4 of the state, but probably 1/3 of the state. I think we're up to 35% now of the state of early intervention is from birth until 3. And our figures are growing. I think our anticipated growth for early intervention for next year is 14.5%. So we really are reaching out into our community all the time, because the sooner we can get to the children within our community, the quicker we can start therapies to help our families, and the better our chances are of even mainstreaming our children back into the community. So we're asking everyone out there to help us get our name out into the community, to get people in so we can help our families and really help our children get the therapies that they need. So let's go to our next slide and talk a little bit about our accomplishments for this year. Whoops, back one. Thank you. We have so many different accomplishments that we could talk about, but we've narrowed it down to just a few that we feel very strongly and very, very proud of all of the individuals that work within our agency. We received very positive and very, very high rating on an employee engagement survey that Mountain States actually did for us as a independent study survey for us. Out of a 4.0 rating, we received a 3.9 overall rating from all of our employees, which is the highest that any agency has received across the metro area. We're very, very proud of that. We have served 544 people with unmet needs throughout the community outreach program, which we're also very proud of. We met more emergency health and safety concerns than ever before. We supported 166 crisis situations, which is really outstanding. Distributed $1.6 million to individuals and families, and connected with 4,600 people. We cannot be all things to all people. We do not profess to do that. But if we can connect people with people that can provide the service, we're going to do that. We think that's another way that we can help individuals. We really look forward to finding agencies that we can partner with to help our families. So at this point, we're going to pause and and answer questions.
I was told my child qualifies for early intervention. What does that mean for his future?
Thank you. Staff was just giving us a question to answer now. So the question is, I was told my child qualifies for early intervention. What does that mean for his future? That's a great question. So this evening, why don't Matt, you and I just start off and kind of bounce that question back and forth between us. But why don't you start?
I'd love to. Since we're not professional broadcasters, I don't really know where to look, but I'll look here to start. The first thing that I would tell you, if you've just found out that your child qualifies for EI services, is take a breath. It'll be just fine. As Melanie mentioned earlier, in early intervention, we serve this year approximately 3,500 different children and their families in just this year, about a third of every child that's served in Colorado. And of those 3,500 or so, about a third will graduate before they turn 3. So they will never need our services again. About another third may need some form or level of service, typically from their school district, in the form of some other sort of therapy. And then there's another third that may qualify for continued services through us in some form or fashion as they get older. After you take that breath, just know that we've been around for 55 years. We'll be here for another 55 or more. And we have a fantastic team of professionals that are well qualified, well trained, and very passionate about serving your loved one and your family. And they're going to work with you day in and day out to make sure that you know, as an EI family member or parent, how best to help your child with their developmental disability or delay. So I can assure you that, that we have a fantastic team that is here to help you to understand now what possibilities await you and your loved one.
And I think I'd add on, Matt, that the future is bright. The future is bright for your child. You have the ability for your child to go to college. You have your ability for your child to find a job. Your child has the ability now to save for a house, to have a roommate, to do anything that any other child will have the ability to do. And if anything, what we want to do is to give the message of hope and a future for every parent out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so going to the next question, who are Continuum and NMSC? Another really good question. Thank you, Tara. So, Matt, why don't you jump in on that one as well?
My pleasure. So in 2014, the federal government passed a new bill or a law or a regulation that in essence said that an organization that serves an individual with a developmental disability through a Medicaid waiver, as Melanie was describing earlier, could not be case managed and provided direct services by the same entity. So with hard strategic planning work with our board of directors and our county commissioners in both Arapahoe and Douglas County, the direction was given and the decision was made to separate what was developmental pathways for 50 plus years, in essence, into 4 separate companies, so that the approximately 700 or 750 individuals that are served by both in developmental pathways, in case management and direct services, didn't in essence have to choose, do I keep my case manager or do I keep my direct service professional? So over the last few years, we have made a conscientious effort to separate those developmental pathways in essence into separate companies. Developmental pathways remains all of the different and provides the functions that Melanie has spoken to earlier with early intervention, community outreach, case management, quality assurance, and Continuum of Colorado is now the direct provider or the service provider, the program approved service agency for those 700 plus individuals. They also act as, Continuum also acts as the safety net for individuals who need a higher level of service than might be met from another provider agency. Nonprofit Management Services of Colorado, or NMSC, is our management company that provides all of what we call the back of the house functions. From our fantastic communications team, like Tara and Natalie, that have helped to put on this event for us tonight and create all of the amazing infographics that you see on our website, and also our fantastic website in itself, to human resources, to finance and billing, and even IT, including Josh and Will and Joe and Charlie and Tim, some of the folks that have helped to coordinate this event for us tonight. So special thanks to each and every one of you. So that's what NMSC does. And then there is another company that, while you didn't ask about it, I think is important to mention, and that's the SUN Foundation. So SUN is an acronym that is serving unmet needs, and its sole purpose is to assist in, Melanie mentioned the community philanthropy piece of some of our funding that we use for services to support unmet needs for folks that are waiting for a level of service that they need. And so SUN Foundation helps to continue those philanthropic efforts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so why don't we move on in our presentation and go to our legislative session update to talk a little bit about a few bills that we worked on and passed that impact families, and we supported these bills this year. So let's start with House Bill 1407. It access to disability service and the stable workforce. This bill requires healthcare policy and finance to seek a 6.5% increase in the reimbursement rate for certain services that must be allocated to direct support professionals. Also, this includes a significant increase of non-emergency enrollments for the DD waiver in 2018-19 state fiscal year. I'm going to pause here because I wanted to tell you a little story that just happened to me. I was meeting with two family members just yesterday, and they had actually made an appointment with me earlier, actually called and made the appointment last week. And I had been in a conference and I came running in to make this meeting with them. And the mother said to me, well, I don't know if we're really going to have to talk to you about this, but I was having a problem with our son, and I've been challenged lately because I've had this tumor, and I've just been totally worn out, and I didn't know if I was going to have to request for emergency in an emergency situation because both my husband and I are really worn out. But then I said, oh my gosh, why don't you let me take notes? So I want to make sure that I get everything down. She said, oh, I don't know if you're going to have to do that or not, because on Saturday, my case manager called me and said, we've been approved for one of the DD slots that I was just talking about. And she and her husband and I just sat in a Starbucks and cried for half an hour because it was so amazing that this came through at the right time, and they were on the list at the right time, and it was at the right place in their lives. And we had been arguing and fighting for this piece of legislation for so long that it came through for us. And this is why we really follow legislation for our families. And this is a prime example of why it's so important for us to be involved with legislation like this. And I just thought it was important for you all to know why we do this. So let's move on
So
to,
Melanie, if I could jump in on that,
Yes.
we are getting a total of 71 resources for the DD waiver in the coming year that we will be enrolling as a result of that legislation. And that'll bring our wait list eligibility date for the DD waiver to approximately November of 2001. So if eligibility was established at that time, up to then, people will be eligible. And we've been reaching out. We've just gotten a list from the state within the past week or so about the additional slots. And we'll be reaching out to more people in the coming weeks and months, actually, as we start enrolling everyone. Very exciting.
but 2001, that means people are still waiting.
That's right. That's right. If their eligibility was established, it's quite a while back.
Yeah,
We're moving forward.
but that's,
Certainly a step in the right direction.
it is a step in the right direction. It's so exciting then for case managers to be able to call and say yes to people. I just think that's so exciting, Bob.
It's a lot of good news.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
wonderful.
It's great news. Thank you for that. Okay, so House Bill 1328 was redesign residential child health care waiver that removes the current requirement that families must relinquish custodial rights of their child so they can qualify for vital services and supports provided by the church waiver. I mean, honestly, why should people have to give up their rights to their child and able to qualify for money? That was another issue that's just totally wrong. To have to give away their child to be able to get money for it. So we're really, really excited about that as
Absolutely.
another step in the right direction. And then Senate Bill 96, 19 Colorado state statutes included the R word until Governor Hickenlooper signed this bill into law in March. It will be replaced with intellectual and developmental disability. So just through all of this, you understand why we're committed to supporting legislative efforts, simply because they impact all of us, including the people we support, direct support professionals, and IDD service agencies, and our employees. It's just essential that we do this. So let's take another break and answer questions again, okay? Okay, so Matt, maybe you and I could answer this question.
Sure.
Why does Pathways belong to Alliance, and how does that benefit people with IDD?
Well, if I could expand on the question a bit, I think the question could also include, and why are we members of national associations like ANCOR, which is the American Network of Community Options and Resources? Why do I have the pleasure of serving on, and Melanie's on that national board? I have the pleasure of serving on the National AAIDD board, as Melanie mentioned earlier, the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. We're members of another state association called the Colorado Coalition for Developmental Disabilities, which is the majority of community center boards, which are all of the case management agencies and service provider agencies in the entire state of Colorado. And Alliance is another association that represents the majority of community center boards and about 35 provider agencies of the 400 or so, but they're in large measure large progressive thinking provider agencies like our friends at Jewish Family Services, for example. They are members of Alliance and get the same sorts of benefits that we do, in that there is strength in numbers. We are able to advocate for all of the families and all of the individuals that we serve, the almost 8,000 with developmental disabilities and delays on an annual basis. And we're able to speak for those families, to help advocate for what's right for those families, much like being in support of the 3 bills that Melanie just mentioned. One of the pieces, Bob shared the great news about over 70 individuals being able to access a comprehensive waiver that some of them have been waiting decades for that level of service that they need for those families. But the other part of that bill was to increase the compensation for what we call DSPs, or direct support professionals. In some parts of Colorado, a direct support professional makes the same minimum wage that somebody that works at McDonald's makes, but they have to be trained in how to help provide medication, to toilet and bathe and change adults with developmental disabilities that are in group homes, to help provide services in the community. It is a relatively thankless and difficult job, and people that are direct support professionals are not paid nearly what they should be. And so working with organizations like Alliance and other state organizations that have advocated for things like the Arc of Arapahoe Douglas, that's a very trusted community partner of ours. We're able to work with them in our associations to continue to advocate so that the state legislature, like the Joint Budget Committee and the overall General Assembly, works with the state departments and the governor's office to pass bills that ultimately are the things that families and individuals with developmental disabilities desperately need.
And I would agree with everything you said. And just, I want to keep us moving on, because we've got other things to talk about this evening. So if you don't mind, let's talk about how we utilize our funding as well. From this screen, you can see the sources of our funding. We receive federal and state funds, Medicaid, county mill levy, private donations and grants. I kind of want to touch on this, that we've heard rumors out in the community that people don't always understand exactly what we do with money here. So we've heard that people think that we receive all this money, that we have a big pot of money that comes in, and that if they have their plan and they don't use all their money, that we keep it. And that could be further from the truth. So we don't make revenue off of unspent service payments. In fact, Medicaid funding is paid directly to the organization providing direct support services.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob is not getting money in from case management plans and lining his pockets. No. The vast majority of our revenue comes from targeted case management, we bill only for the work that we do. We're also very, very grateful for the mill levy funding from our local counties that's provided for us. That started back in the year 2000. We contract with our counties, and the money that we receive goes directly out to fund unmet needs within our counties. And finally, we seek private donation, and that goes for unmet needs as well. That goes directly out through our foundation. And these funds go strictly for unmet needs for people. So how we utilize our funding, as I've indicated, directly to unmet needs. Our board of directors over the past 2 years have allowed us to carry over fundings that we can do initiative funding. And that has been directly put together from focus groups, from meeting with providers and with families for directly what they have told us that they have needed for community partner support and staff and infrastructure building. We use revenue in 4 major categories to assist families with emergency, unmet or undermet needs, to address the initiative or areas that we feel need solutions or need to be improved upon in our community, such as transportation solutions in Douglas County. I believe Matt addressed that. One of the questions that we had from the vast areas that we are talking about across both of our counties, you cannot Uber your way out of that in any way, or the cliff effect for our families aging out of early intervention. When you hit that 3-year-old mark in early intervention, there are no services available for our 3-year-olds, and there are plenty of therapies that our babies still need, our parents still need after that, and also to support organizations within our community to enhance their programming or to make their programs more affordable to families, for staff and infrastructure building to protect staff retention and to ensure our organization can continue to support you in years to come. Okay, and we're moving on to the next slide, how we prioritize mill levy funds. Our counties have entrusted us with property utilizing mill levy dollars, and we take that trust really seriously. So funding for emergency unmet and undermet needs is prioritized in the following way. Both case management and community outreach received dollars, mill levy dollars to send out to the community. So the top portion of the slide indicates exactly how community outreach prioritizes their funding through a hierarchy. And the bottom portion talks about how case management does their funding for mill levy. So we are running close to how much time we got, so I'm going to run quickly through also our commitment to transparency. We have many annual audits. We hold ourselves to a high standard when it comes to transparency. We participate or conduct around 90 to 100 surveys or audits annually. If you think about that, we are audited constantly. We keep a room available for an auditor at any time. When Senate Bill 38 was passed, we were already in compliance with nearly all of the regulations outlined. A 990 is a particular form that is available for nonprofits. Ours is out on our website. It gives complete audited financial information. You can find that on our website, along with a complete copy of our mill levy report. Our mill levy report is presented to both sets of our county commissioners within the first quarter of our every year. And after that is presented to our county commissioners, it is then presented to every citizen within our counties in the form of a flyer that is put in every local newspaper that goes out to our communities. As a matter of fact, it will be in the flyer in your local newspaper this Thursday. Please visit our Commitment to Transparency page on our website, listed on the bottom of your screen right now. Our last slide for this evening talks about planning for the future. On this screen, you will see what we plan to do over this next year. If you're not acquainted with our Bernie's Place, we are committed to providing beds for individuals 13 to 17, of which there are none within the state right now. We believe in providing an alternative space than to sending our children out of state. It is very detrimental to a loved one to be sent out of state when there are behavioral problems and a child has to be pulled out of a home and then to be sent out of state. They do not connect with their family. The family does not have the option of being able to learn how to bring their child back into their home. We now have that option available for male children within a home that we have available right now under a proof of concept home here, and we're getting ready to do the same for female children. Excuse me. I'm going to joke now if you want to take over.
So one of the other items that we've been planning for are additional transportation solutions through Arapahoe and Douglas County, not just for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but also for seniors, folks with physical disabilities as well, in the hopes that we can work with our community partners to fill different routes so that we can serve the number of routes that have to be provided, and also looking at new solutions that are almost Uber-like, including working with some of our community partners around a volunteer driver program. You'll also see on the screen.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
providing an additional office setting in Northeast Aurora for programming and staff convenience, a new day activities facility in Highlands Ranch and Arapahoe County, and emergency overnight respite beds for both children and adults. Okay, let's now go back to questions.
I think there's one for me there, Melanie, so I'll just take it. How's that?
Okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
So
I'm losing my voice.
I see that. So the question is, how are we addressing case management turnover? And I know that case management turnover has plagued not only us, but all the CCBs across the system for a number of years, and it continues. The reality of it is that we've been basically now faced with the fact that we have a very low unemployment rate, and also that Denver is a very expensive place to live. So these are making the whole hiring and keeping case managers even more difficult than it was before, further exacerbated by the fact that the rates for case management are just not adequate from the state. And I know, as Melanie and Matt have said, we are working on that at several levels to try to address that. But the increases this year really didn't go to the case management group. So we're still working on it. That being said, we are still trying to tackle the challenges of case management turnover. And under the leadership of Mel and Matt, several years ago, we started an employer of choice initiative, which brought into focus that we really wanted to hire people and keep people because we put a lot of investment into them, in their training, in them working with families, and we know how disruptive it is for families to have to change case managers. And if families have their druthers, and I agree, their case managers, if they were good, would stay with them their entire life and be another member of their family. But life intrudes, and unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case, and we haven't hit that magic goal yet. That being said, part of the employer and choice initiatives are that we basically have more flexibility in offering salaries, that we have a pay for performance incentive program for our staff. We try to have an attractive benefit package, and we also have flexible work hours and a mobile workforce, which is very inducing, especially to people who are young, starting families and starting their career. So these are all efforts to keep people around, keep good people in the field, keep good professionals in the field. Internally in case management, we have worked to create step ladders for career advancement. So now we have senior case managers, we have assistant program managers, with the idea of succession planning and grooming for the future leaders in the IDD world. And I can say this, Cindy Lichty of our EI department is not here, and community outreach, but they are doing the same sort of things under the employer of choice initiatives to basically deal with the question of keeping people around and keeping good people in the field. So that has been our approach, and we continue on that very vigorously and hoping for more success. With that, I don't want to know we're running out of time, but just briefly, so people understand, the case manager job is very hard. It's a diverse skill set, and we need very talented people. They have to facilitate meetings. They have to understand complicated regulations. They have to be mini accountants on budgets and payment to providers. We need critical thinkers. They have to be good in emergencies. So it's hard to get that skill set in individuals. And frankly, we train them very well. And once they get trained, sometimes they look on and they go, well, maybe I can go on to do other things. And as Melanie and Matt mentioned, the satisfaction rate of working here is very high. So people don't leave because they're dissatisfied. It's just other opportunities or other things in life come up, and that hits our ranks, so to speak. So the point I'm trying to make to everyone is that it's a very a problem we know about, and we're working it very actively as we have for several years.
Yeah, and I want to go back to a point that you made. I know we're running out of time, but I think it's an important point. We talked about a 6.5% increase, but there was no increase for case managers. And that's so important for us to call out, because people need to understand that we need to have advocates in our community that will advocate for that too.
Right.
You know, our direct service professionals needed the increase, but so do our case managers.
Yeah, in large measure, the system runs because the case managers are making the gears go forward.
Yes,
And,
That's right.
and we need to keep them, and it's a hard and sophisticated job, so.
it is.
Mhm.
It is.
I agree.
I see a question for you, Matt.
So what is the community outreach program? As Bob mentioned, and I would like to, I hope that we've appropriately recognized our team that's helped us put this on today or tonight. Two of our executive team leaders that were unable to join us tonight, Cindy Lichty, as Bob mentioned before, has been with the organization since she was, I think, 10 or 11, because she's been here for over 35 years. And she oversees our community outreach department. The question is about what is the community outreach program? We learned that some folks, we recently learned when we were presenting our mill levy report to a group of county commissioners, that there may be a misnomer or a misunderstanding that community outreach is our marketing and communications team. It is not. Our marketing and communications team is Natalie and Tara that we mentioned earlier. Instead, community outreach is a department that was created in 2012, shortly after Melanie became our CEO, whereupon our board of directors made very clear that our mill levy needed to be spent to support families with unmet and undermet needs. And so just this year as an example, community outreach will serve over 1,500 unique individuals and families. And that doesn't include the over 4,000 people that get the community newsletter that is very extremely popular, the different Spanish resource fairs and parents' night out, and all of the different ways that we support families that are still waiting for a Medicaid waiver or the level of service that they require. So of the 4,000 or so individuals that we have waiting for services, we do the community outreach team does a fantastic job of engaging with every family that wants to be engaged with, to help them to connect with community resources, and also to provide some additional funding for services that are needed.
That's great. Thank you so much. So do we have time for maybe one more question? Let's end on Bob because he hasn't talked about it.
That's a great idea.
Okay, well, thank you. So,
And then Tara's gonna come out and do some soft shoe just to bring us.
So the question coming
Bring it all home.
to me is, what does Pathways do to enhance the customer experience? And I'll talk primarily about case management, but I know it's throughout the entire organization because our leadership is constantly focused on improving our client customer experience. And because we realize that families and their loved ones are under a lot of stress just getting by in life. And we don't want to make it any more difficult. We want to make it easier. So the organization has embraced person-centered thinking and planning to ensure the focus is on what's important to people first, what's important to you as a person. And after that, we'll talk about what might be important to support you for what you desire and you need. So that's throughout our organization, as you both know, but it's an important point to make to everyone. We have done extensive work with our staff to basically ensure that message gets across, and then to make our working tools as useful and as simple as possible to help people get through the red tape without too much frustration, and also to make sure that we have messaging consistently about what we do and how we're here to help them. So those are a couple of the things that we're doing to enhance the customer experience. We've moved to a collaborative case management model where we have a team model in part to deal with the question of case management turnover, so that we have a team that's collaborating and knows about individuals. So if somebody's going to leave us, or somebody's going to go on family and medical leave, or they're going to have maternity leave, we have a team that understands the individual, their circumstances in the family, and we can offload it to the team to work with that family and individual while we have the changeover there or a person out of the office for a period of time. So that's just a few of the things we're doing. I know we're running out of time. We've got many others that we're doing, but there's a constant focus on making the customer client experience better in every way.
All right. Well, a big thank you to my co-presenters here this evening, to, as Matt and Bob have both said, thank you to the whole team behind the scenes. You all in the outside audience can't see it, but we have a whole team behind the camera helping us out this evening that have been mentioned here this evening. Thank you to our audience for joining us this evening. If your question was not answered, you will find the answer along with the presentation online on our website later on. Thanks so much. You will see on your screen how to contact us and our website. And as we have indicated, you can get onto our website, find our presentation. Please join us next year for another community conversation. We appreciate you as our families. And thank you very much for joining us. Good night.